Hello and thank you for joining us on Sideline Story, your destination for sports news, analysis and discussions. I'm Brandon Yates and today we will be discussing the European football summer transfer window. We'll be looking at some of the biggest moves, which teams have done good or bad business, as well as look at the performances of players featuring for new teams. To help me get through the subject matter, I'm joined by two fantastic panelists, Yang Guang and Tian Yu. And Yang Guang, I'll start with you. It's pretty much been a phenomenal transfer window so far. We've seen some big moves. We've seen some really exciting play happen already where some players are already featuring really highly for their new teams. But which transfers have caught your eye so far? Because there is definitely still some business to go in the next couple of days. But so far, which ones have caught your eye?
I must say the best deal should be Harry Kane joining Bayern Munich.
Of course, you'd say that.
My dream
of course,
deal.
big Bayern fan over here.
A dream deal for me for many years, and finally it's happening. And credit to the Bayern management and also Levy.
Yes, Daniel Levy, notoriously very difficult to negotiate with.
I think he's a genius in this kind of trades.
I think considering the situation that Levy was dealing with, where Harry Kane, I think, had less than a year left on his contract, 29 years old, I think getting £100 million for someone in that ilk, someone that's still performing at a very high level and still one of the best players in the world, but is getting to the latter stages of his career, clearly wanted a move. I think to get that amount of money, considering that position that Kane had over Levy and Tottenham, where he was definitely in the power seat, to get that amount of money, Daniel Levy definitely deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, and those tricks in the mind game with Bayern, they worked really well.
Clearly
Proved what a smart businessman he is.
Yeah, and have you been impressed with Kane's performances so far?
Yeah, in terms of Kane's performance, I would say he's a perfect add-up to Bayern squads. Actually, I think he's a perfect add-up to any team. It's just who he is.
He would kind of fit in anywhere, right?
Yes.
He's just got that final touch and his ability to link up with other players. He's just the perfect centre forward.
I really envy Yang Guang.
Me too, as a United fan. I would have loved Harry Kane in my squad.
Yeah, he's a master of all trades.
Do you think Kane also made the best move in terms of his career as well? Because it seemed like he really was desperate to have a move to a world-class club. No disrespect to Tottenham. But, to a team that's competing for leagues and Champions League medals. And he also didn't want to, he knew that he would upset Tottenham fans to a certain degree, but I think he would have upset them a lot more had he moved to a Premier League rival. So do you think that he also made the right move to leave the Premier League and join, obviously, the Bundesliga giants Bayern Munich?
Definitely. The first Bundesliga would be very special for Kane because he's...
Oh, so you're assuming that it's already a done deal?
Of course. But what's more special would be the Champions League trophy.
Of course.
And I think Bayern is capable of, being one of the contenders this season.
Yeah. I think there's no doubt about that. I think, just the attacking variety that they have up front, the pace that they have down the wings. I think one area that they may lack in is a bit of creativity in midfield. But when you've got someone like Harry Kane, who is, of course, a goal-scoring phenomenon, but also has the ability to create chances for others, I don't think that creativity in midfield is as needed as it was when he was with previous teams.
He's like a wild card in a poker game, which can represent any other cards. So I know some people would say Kane is kind of slow-paced. He is. Speed is never on his resume.
Doesn't matter though, right?
Yeah, with Gnabry, with Kingsley Coman,
with all of the fastest wingers in the world, all seem to play for Bayern for some reason.
Speed is the least thing you would worry about with this Bayern squad. Actually, we are one of the fastest in Europe.
Yeah.
But what really Kane brings about and makes an impact on with this Bayern squad is something we've been long missing, which is the pivot in attack.
Yeah.
Ever since one of the GOATs of Bayern history, Robert Lewandowski, left, right?
Yeah. Especially when the opponents play really heavy defense and really defend deep. I think Kane would play a huge role in that scenarios.
And Kane also brings something different that Lewandowski never had, which is link-up play.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I think he actually has the potential to have a greater impact, not necessarily on the amount of goals that he scores, but just the way that Bayern play. I think that, of course he's going to score numerous goals, as we've already seen him doing this season, but I also think the ability that he has to set up passes for those speedy players that you've mentioned. If I'm a team defending against Bayern, what do you do? Because if you mark Harry Kane, there's so much space for all of these speedy wingers. So I think Kane is going to create a lot of problems for teams that come up against Bayern Munich, not just in the Bundesliga, but in Europe as well.
It seems
Yeah,
like
100 million euros.
It seems like a bargain in this market.
For someone who can act as both a striker and also an attacking midfielder. Oh my God, it's a bargain in terms of the prices, in terms of what he can do.
And he just brings like a calmness. He just looks like he knows what he's doing. He brings a certain level of stability to a squad, and I think he's already having that impact at Bayern. What are your thoughts, Tianyu?
3 goals and 1 assist in the first 2 matches or 3 matches.
Yeah. I wouldn't
That's
expect
insane.
anything less from Kane, though, to be honest. I knew he would fit this team like a glove.
It's already the best proof that he's the biggest contender for the Bundesliga's Golden Boot award this season. I think
it's early days, but it really is looking good at this point in
time. Got off to a good start.
Yeah, a perfect start.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a match made in heaven. I really think that, look, there is also the debate, and this is something that I brought up a couple of weeks ago when Kane was going to make the move. He did have the potential to go on to be the Premier League's all-time leading goal scorer, which I think is an incredibly unique title to have. And that's something that Alan Shearer has always said, that when people ask him, are you more proud of the Premier League title that you won with Blackburn, or are you more proud of the top scorer in the Premier League history? And he always says, there's only one person that's got that title of being the English Premier League all-time top goal scorer.
Shooter.
And that's something that Kane could have taken. However, it didn't seem like that was the biggest factor for him. I think that he wanted to challenge himself and win titles with a club and, in a team setting. And I think that Bayern Munich, in terms of the ability to win domestic titles, having the chance to potentially win titles in Europe, and also just playing for a major team, and also not accepting the Tottenham fans, who I think still highly respect him, I think it was the perfect move for player and for club.
Yeah, I'm just happy you guys are with me.
I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence because if I was Kane, I think it would have been very difficult for me to leave Tottenham, considering that Premier League record. And I think it also would have been very tempting to join the likes of Manchester United, where he probably would have got to that English Premier League top scorer title a lot sooner. No disrespect, Tottenham. Again, sorry. But look, I think because he did want the move and he wanted to test himself at the highest level, I think Bayern Munich was the best choice for player and for club, Tottenham and Bayern as well.
But ironically, Tottenham's getting better this season after he left.
Like we said, it's early days. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I will be very surprised if Tottenham even break into the top 6. But like you said, they are playing really well at the moment. And James Maddison seemed to be a really great signing for Tottenham. But have any transfers at this point in time, Tianyu, also caught your eye besides the likes of Harry Kane?
Well, I've got to say, as a Real Madrid fan, I would say signing Jude Bellingham is probably the best decision that the managers have made.
Talk about a bargain, right?
Yeah, like the past 5 years or so. Look at the club. Look what the club has been doing for the past few years. They signed Eden Hazard for 150 million euros.
Possibly one of the biggest fails in transfer history. And look, I mean, on paper it made sense, but it just really didn't work out for the player. He didn't take care of his fitness and he was injury prone. And Real Madrid could just never have envisioned that would be such a disaster. So you can't really blame either player or the club, but wow, what a fail that was.
Yeah, that's a poor decision. He ended up sitting in the bench for like 2 years.
What is he even doing now? Do you guys know where Eden Hazard is or what he's doing? I don't know. Is he still in the Real Madrid squad? Like, I have no idea what he's doing with his life right now. He's probably just taking in the paychecks, which doesn't sound like a bad way of living, to be honest. But it's been a crazy downward trend for Hazard, unfortunately, because he is such a great talent.
Yeah,
but back to Bellingham, I mean, let's talk about him.
I'm gonna stick with the bad decisions that Real Madrid has made. Last year, they've wasted a year's time chasing Kylian Mbappe, and ended up getting fooled.
Could still happen. Could still definitely happen.
But not sound very realistic for Real Madrid fans.
And letting go of Benzema.
Yeah, letting go of Benzema.
Look, I don't know how much that was of a letting go situation. I think that because of what Benzema had done for the club for over a decade, I think they just came to a mutual understanding that, well, look, they did let him go in that sense. But I think that they both agreed that, look, this is a good move for you and your future in terms of Real Madrid discussing this with Benzema. And obviously this is something Benzema really wanted, to go to the Saudi League and make a ridiculous sum of money. But yes, that was a move that definitely hindered Real Madrid. And it seems like you've been saying, Tianyu, they have really struggled to replace the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Gareth Bale, which were massive money transfers and were Galactico signings. And they kind of continued on that trend. And when they realized that didn't work, it seems like they've changed their transfer approach, which can you tell me a bit more about that? The likes of Rodrigo, Vinicius, and now
they've
Bellingham.
signed some young potential players, like the likes of Rodrigo, Vinicius,
Camavinga.
They are incredible players. But look at the successes that they have achieved in the past few years, in the past few seasons. I think they can win matches largely due to the members of their old lineup, the likes of Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, Carvajal. Yeah, they're still relying heavily on these players, on these veterans. They need someone.
Yeah. But do you think they've got a good transitional plan at this point in time? Because yes, they are still relying on Kroos and Modric and those kind of players, but it looks like they've got some very talented youngsters that are coming through that could potentially replace them while they're still playing and also be long-term solutions to continue Madrid's dominance in particularly Europe.
Definitely. I think signing Jude Bellingham is a great start. He can definitely do anything, take up any role in the midfield.
Although we have seen in the past when players that can do everything, sometimes that hinders their progression because managers and teams don't know what to do with them. But so far for Bellingham, that doesn't seem to be a problem.
Yeah, he bringing him can largely, fill the gap of the squad. What the squad is currently need is attacking power. We count on Vinicius Jr. all the time for him to make breakthroughs in the wings, and Rodrigo. We still need a striker, and
yes, desperately.
And Ancelotti is considering making him like
a false nine.
Yeah, a substitute for a real striker, and I think that can work.
Bellingham.
Yeah, Bellingham.
In the striker's
look at his data. Look at his data.
That's what I'm thinking right now. But I mean,
4 goals in 3 matches.
Cesc Fabregas did something similar at Barcelona, which didn't necessarily work out. I mean, it did create a lot of space for Messi. And I think having Bellingham in that role could create space for the likes of Vinicius and Rodrigo. But I still don't think that is his best position. I think he's best when he's lying deep. And I do think that it's a good move for Madrid at this point while they are without a world-class striker. But at some point they will need to sign one.
Yeah,
and it could potentially be Kylian Mbappe. I definitely think that move is going to happen at some point. Maybe not necessarily in this window. I doubt it'll happen in this window. But I think Mbappe is dead set on joining Real Madrid. Is that a move that you would like to see?
We already missed Harry Kane. We can't afford to miss another superstar.
Yeah. Heads up. That's Barcelona. Heads up. Yeah.
But look again, at the same time, Mbappe, in terms of a long-term strategy, which is something that Madrid seem to be leaning towards at this point in time, not just signing players that are good right now, although Mbappe is one of the best in the world right now, but they seem to be planning for the long term. Yeah, and even though Mbappe is one of the best, if not the best player in the world right now, he would still be a long-term solution for Real Madrid. So do you think that Madrid should go all out to try and sign him in the next window and at this point in time use Bellingham in a position that could potentially fill that gap that Mbappe will fill in the future?
Yeah, like you guys said, I think eventually we need a real striker.
100%.
The ability to terminate the game, to convert...
You see the joke there? A real striker.
To convert the ball position into real goals is exactly what all the teams in football across different leagues are desperately in need of right now.
But now you've got the player that can do that. So I think that now if they do sign a striker, Bellingham is going to be the perfect player that's going to unlock space and chances for players. For example, Connor Cody, who was a defender for Everton and I think still is a defender for Everton, and he's been in the England setup. He was on a podcast recently and he was discussing which players in the England squad when he first joined the squad had the biggest impact. And I mean, they've got some of the best players in the world, right? And this is the first time that Bellingham had entered the England setup, and he said 18-year-old Jude Bellingham was doing things that I've never seen before.
Yeah,
in one of the training sessions, apparently he did a 360 turn with the ball on his foot, this is Bellingham, and nutmegged Connor Cody. And this is the first time he was in the England setup, and he had the talent and the mindset and the courage to do that. So he's clearly somebody that's going to be very special for England, for Real Madrid. And I think if Mbappe also joins Real Madrid, my goodness, the European, the Champions League is probably locked up for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Although Bayern could have a shout, I think those two teams are going to be a dominant force in the Champions League for some years to come.
To challenge the the position of the city, of the Manchester City.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing too. Well, we'll get into Manchester City and a couple of other teams that have been doing business. Tianyi, I'll start with you. You know, it's been an incredible window. We've seen some unbelievable business being done, like we've already discussed at this point in time. But which teams do you think have done the best business so far, and potentially which ones haven't done enough business or have done bad business?
Like we said, I think Bayern Munich and Real Madrid are two teams that have been doing incredibly well in this summer window. But I also want to talk about the losers, potential losers. I mean, not losers already, but potentially.
Yeah, like on paper, they're not looking so good at this point, right?
I think Arsenal might be one of them.
Really? You know, even with Declan Rice?
Signing Kai Havertz. I just had no idea.
Yeah, I can't defend the Kai Havertz signing for £70 million. Madness.
Why the managers are so desperate about Kai Havertz? I don't see any highlights.
But then again, Arteta seems to have things in mind that football fans don't see. So maybe Arteta has something in mind for Havertz in the long-term future. Maybe he fits into a certain style that Arteta is aiming to play.
I mean, he's got advantages like he's tall, he's not afraid of making body confrontations, he can be really aggressive when
he's experienced, he's
forward.
A Champions League winner. Yep. His link-up play is pretty good.
But just look at the performance, the real performance in recent matches.
Yeah.
It was disastrous. Disastrous.
Is it fair to judge him at this point in time, though? I mean, they've only played, 3 games?
Yeah, he didn't fit into the team well, but just look at the basics that you can do well. Passes. You can't even expect him to pass the ball into the right position well. And do you think nerves play a factor? Do you think that he's really trying to make a statement and justify his price tag? Yeah, Arteta, you mean?
No,
Havertz. Well, I don't.
Or do you think it's just a lack of ability?
Yeah, I would go for the second.
Okay, so you think Arsenal could be potential losers in this window? Are there any others that you have in mind?
But on the other hand, I think you mentioned Declan Rice.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he is a good choice.
Okay.
He's definitely worth the money.
Yeah. But do you think there are any other teams in the Premier League or in Europe that could potentially be losers?
I would like to ask about your opinions on Manchester United. That's
all right.
You know, they've made some
panelists throwing it to the anchor. I love it. Look, obviously, it's no secret that I'm a huge Manchester United fan, and Ten Hag has come in and done some good things. I think that he's laid his marker on Manchester United. He's made it clear to the board and the players what he wants, a certain style that he wants to play. And no player, no matter how big or small, is going to impact that, like we saw with Cristiano Ronaldo's exit. In terms of the signings that we've made in this transfer window, I'm still a bit uncertain. I think Onana has showed some promise. I think he fits into Ten Hag's style better because he's a better distributor of the ball. But that being said, I think the handling of David De Gea was disgraceful because I think he's been absolutely brilliant and a legend for the club for a long time. And I still believe that he is one of the best, if not the best, shot stoppers on the planet. But his ball handling skills were not necessarily great, and that seems to be the reason they brought in Onana. Mason Mount, I have not been impressed with him so far. I think he still has a lot to prove. And look, he has suffered an injury, but it remains to be seen what kind of impact that he has. Højlund, an unbelievable talent. I'm very excited about his potential, but I don't know if he's going to solve the goal-scoring crisis that Manchester United has in this point in time. Harry Kane would have done so. But he does definitely have some potential. I would definitely still like to see United sign another holding midfielder and potentially a striker. I have this vision in my head of us getting Dusan Vlahovic from Juventus. I would love that signing because I think that he is a huge talent that hasn't really proven himself yet, and I think he would be great for United. I don't think it's going to happen. But I think United will get into the top 4 again this season, but I don't think we'll be challenging Manchester City.
Well, top 4, a little bit ambitious.
Well, because the other top 4 contenders, the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea, I think have done terrible business. I think the only ones that are looking like potential competitors to City at this point in time are Arsenal.
Which place did they ended up last season?
United, top 4.
Top 4.
Yeah,
I believe
I don't think we'll do
same.
better than that, but I don't think we'll do worse than that either.
Yeah.
Any other teams that have, that you've kept your eyes on in the transfer window?
Well, I was assuming that you guys would say that Chelsea is a potential loser.
Oh no.
I would say that they're a definite loser, considering the amount of money that they've spent on virtual nobodies.
Yeah, they've been spending tons and tons of money since last season. You know, but the signings didn't make much difference in terms of the results. But this time, they've got a new manager, Pochettino, and I think this man, he is the man who can turn things around for the Blues. You know, he's already made some great decisions by trimming down the squad, and he's got some reinforcement in the positions that that the current squad is in need of. Such as for many, there are many names that I can come up with, like Caicedo.
Who's that?
Christopher Nkunku.
Tell me who that is, please.
And Nicholas Jackson.
Who's that?
Mark my words. I think Caicedo is
Are they going to have an
be.
impact in the Premier League immediately? Nope.
He's going to be the next Kante for the Blues.
That's a big. Those are some big shoes to fill.
Just look at the matches he's already been playing. Last season in Brighton, he's the pillar. He's like the pillar player for Brighton. He's been doing incredibly well in terms of defense, but not only defense. What he's capable of is more than just blocking balls from his opponents, but also passing, threatening balls, and also dribbling. That's
He's off to a terrible start though, right? I mean, he got a red card in his first game, didn't he?
He still needs time. He's young and talented. He's only 21 years old, right? Am I right?
But Caicedo is just one signing. I mean,
Yeah.
a heavy
Yeah,
spending.
And £100 million for a relatively untested player.
That's
I mean,
I would say that's a bold investment, man.
so do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, a record 360 million in
For
one
what?
transfer window. It's just unbelievable.
And where's he going to take them? Do you see them competing with City?
They already spent 280 million
Madness.
in winter.
How rich is this Todd Bowley guy? Is he taking out loans? What's happening?
Look, this Chelsea squad is completely different from like 1 year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, if a Chelsea fan missed the whole season of Chelsea's game and he returns to watch Chelsea, he won't even recognize this club.
He would feel how I'll feel. Who's that? Who's this guy?
Yeah, look at these transfers. Caicedo for 110 million, 85 million for Lavia.
Who is that? Who is this person?
45 million.
I'm a football fan and I don't know who these guys are. And they're spending hundreds of millions of pounds on untested players.
They will have their names resounding in the stadium.
Okay.
For Chelsea fans, I hope so for their sake, because this tactic that they're approaching the transfer market with right now seems like borderline madness.
Yeah, 60 million for Nkunku. I mean, I
think
remember
Nkunku's at least worth the money.
Yeah, I agree.
Nkunku is a striker.
I mean, I remember a Chinese fan said on social media, Chelsea were signing players like they were shopping on eBay. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of true because, yeah, I agree that some of those names, they performed rather well with their previous clubs, and I kind of get Chelsea's signing strategy.
This is what I want to ask you. What is their strategy? Is it a long-term vision? Because they're clearly not looking to close the gap this season. Do you think that they're going to get to City's level at some point?
I think they are trying to sign as many potential superstars as possible with multi-year contracts.
Yes.
So in the next 4 or 5 years, they will have a rather young and stable squad.
Well, and yes, but stable remains to be seen, because I think on paper, their approach makes sense, right? In terms of like a financial long-term solution to Chelsea's problems. But there's no guarantee that these investments that they've made on talent and potential will be fulfilled, because often in football, we see highly talented youngsters not making the grade. And Chelsea are taking a huge gamble because they haven't bet on 1 or 2 players. They've bet on like 10 to 15 players.
I mean, I think they are trying to, sign these players with long contracts and maybe in
I guess that's the insurance, right? Is tying them down to the long-term contract. So if they don't work out, they've still got that insurance where they can't leave for free because they're tied. Some of them are tied down to, I think, 8-year contracts.
When this batch of players, when they grow into something, they might have chance to win trophies. But
they might.
Yeah, that said, I still think they are gambling.
Yeah.
They're playing a really risky game here. Yes, they might reach their peak in 4 or 5 years, but at least for now, they are standing where they were from 1 year earlier.
I think
with
that
with 500 million already spent.
To spend something like 500 million on potentially a mid-table finish, it is something that the fans are probably going to be very upset with. And you just have to hope for the Chelsea fans' sake that this approach of, betting so much money on this potential works out in the long term. It could happen. I might be eating my words in 5 years' time, but that remains to be seen. Whereas the likes of Manchester City, they seem to have made some really quality decisions in terms of replacing players that have left and just reinvigorating the squad. Manchester City have signed the likes of Gvardiol as a centre-back.
I think he's great centre-back.
And Mateo Kovacic, who's also just been a really good squad player for Chelsea over the years. I think he's going to really have a great impact on City's midfield depth.
To replace Gundogan?
Yes, yeah. Not necessarily to replace Gundogan, because I don't think he'll be a starter, but I think just to take up that place in the squad. Look, they've let go of Cole Palmer, who is an incredible talent, but they've also brought in Jeremy Doku, who also looks like an incredible talent coming off the wings. So it looks like City are set for another season of dominance, and they've begun the season with 3 Premier League wins. So
yeah, they just have so many good players at disposal.
And depth, just unbelievable squad depth.
Yeah.
So I think City are going to do really good things going forward. Yang Guang, we also know that, we've spoken about a couple of transfers that have been happening in the Bundesliga, in La Liga and in the Premier League, but there's also been this tiny matter of the Saudi League signing really high quality players to their league and really having an impact on the global stage. What impact do you think some of these major, internationally renowned players moving to the Saudi League will have on football going forward?
Yeah, I think it's an earthquake transfer window if you count what Saudi clubs did signing those star players. And this list has some players didn't really seemingly they are ready to leave the top European leagues so early.
Some of them still seem like they're really playing at the highest level.
I mean, in the old days, only the likes of Batistuta, Xavi Hernandez, and the Cannavaro
players past their peak
played in the Middle East only when they were on the tail of their professional career. But now, if you look at those joining the Saudi Pro League, they are still in their prime, and at least
Benzema's a current Ballon d'Or holder.
Neymar.
Yeah, their slippery isn't that obvious. Like Jordan Henderson still has gas in his tank, and
Sadio Mane still looks like he's playing at a really high level, and Ronaldo is like an alien. I mean, he's almost 39, and he's still playing like he was 28, 29.
Yeah, Fabinho isn't even 30 years old yet.
And it's not a gimmick. It's looking like it's going to be a long-term plan, because when you have players on the decline signing, people think, oh, well, it's just somewhere where players go to retire. But when you start signing stars that are currently stars and are still playing at the highest level, other leagues take notice and say, look, at some point, we're going to have to compete in the transfer window for really high quality players that are still playing at the highest level. We now have to compete with a new league, and a league that seemingly has endless amounts of money.
Exactly. And I think it's like the rich Saudi bosses are like, okay, if we can buy a Premier League club and attract top players to play for that club, why don't we just create another Premier League in my country and let top players in my country?
And it seems like they're on the road to do that. And I think going forward, it's going to be very interesting to see what impact the Saudi Pro League has on other European leagues around the world and if they can reach that level. And it looks like they potentially can. So it's going to be very interesting to see in future transfer windows if we see this continuing trend of not just former stars, but current stars leaving the European leagues and moving to the Saudi League. But there's still plenty of action to happen in the transfer window, and it should be very exciting indeed. But that is all we have time for on this week's episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week with our latest topic, and we'll see you then.
This is CGTN Radio. Hear the difference.